And it was a lot of fun making up. Sarafim was the name of my country, and the Padishah of Sarafim ends up being one of the villains in this piece. But that's also where the great necklace comes from. And then I had to create a modern political context within which would be a justification for this big spectacle, which is the center scene of my book. And it was a lot of fun doing all that kind of stuff. And in fact, I've always enjoyed the research that is necessary to create the illusion of truth and mysteries. I think it's a lot of fun. You learn all kinds of stuff.
Well, you did have to, in fact, create a plausible reason for the Padishah and the necklace to arrive at Martha's Vineyard. Yeah, exactly. It seemed really remote, and I thought you did it rather craftily. So I would think, not another locked room mystery, but I think it would be fun if in future, you know, you did recreate, or not recreate, if you created anew some other mythical place or link or something, and maybe that's good for you as a writer too, because you are confined to the vineyard. And when we say that, what that really means is that your publisher is of the belief that your books in this series are what are going to sell, and they don't want you wandering off to Africa or somewhere and changing the focus of the book.
It's like they don't want Tony Hillerman leaving the Navajo Reservation. Now, he's written a couple books. I think not his latest one, but the one before was, you know, it's really a Vietnam story. And he wrote that. The guy goes off to the middle, to Asia in search of, I think, the child of his brother, as I recall. Right. And it's a very good read, but it's not Chi and Lee
market, and for, you know, for the audience that expects. See, I feel as a bookseller that when something like that comes along, when was it Ken Follett wrote his book about the building of a medieval cathedral instead of one of his espionage stories, I had to tell everyone who wanted to buy it that it was a book about building a medieval cathedral, and so that you wouldn't surprise them. I mean, as a bookseller, you have to avoid surprising the readers, and I think that that's one of the things that would worry your publisher if you, Phil Craig, author of the Martha's Vineyard Mystery, suddenly popped out. And that's why it might be good if you could do like the Western or the historical novel, go so far afield that that wouldn't happen.
I think I'd have to write it. I think the best thing really would be to write them under another name.
And that's another reason, and a good point, why so many mystery authors write under pseudonyms, which always drives us crazy, because then we have to decide, even though the book has the pseudonym, do we really put Ruth Rendell and Barbara Vine in the same place because everybody's going to look there, or do we put it under V and under R? And, you know, you wind up, it creates a host of problems while it's solving a host of problems. And, of course, in a specialty store where you're hand selling, you can overcome that. And it's not necessary, but in a broader market, I can understand that pseudonyms really are useful, because you want people to look for this kind of book and associate it with this name, that kind of book and associate it with that name. One thing that I had mentioned early on when we started this conversation is we were going to say a word or two about hardcover and paperback. You have always been a hardcover writer, and that has certain consequences. It means you get reviewed.
Yep.
It means you get into libraries and
all the time.
Into schools and so forth, where form is important, although today libraries really do buy paperbacks.
They have to. They can't afford to buy hardcovers.
True.
It costs a fortune to buy books.
And so that makes a big difference. But there seems to be, I mean, there's some commercial reasons why hardcovers are good. It's wonderful when you also get the paperback contract, so you can reach all those mass market readers who can't afford or prefer a portable book or whatever.
Sure.
How do you as a writer feel about it? I mean, would you care what form your books came out in?
I feel so lucky to be in print. I don't have any, I'm delighted to be in paperback, and I'm told that it's really nice to be in hardcover, but I don't know anything about this writing business. I'm delighted. Scribner has been very good to me. I have a wonderful editor, Suzanne Kirk, and then Avon has picked them up and publishes them, you know, about a year after the hardcover comes out, and they've been doing it for years now, and it's just, I actually never gave it very much thought, except I was glad they were doing it.
Well, you're particularly lucky in the sense that you have been with one publishing house throughout for your hardcovers and one for your paperback, which means all of your books are currently available. It's very frustrating for writers who either follow an editor or follow the money or are dropped and have to find a new home, or for whatever reason wind up with more than one publisher in their stream of books.
I hear these stories all the time of people who go from publisher to publisher, but I haven't had any other publishers coming knocking on my door saying, Phil, we're going to slip you $1 million if you just ship over to us. So I haven't been confronted with that, and I actually don't even think about that very much. When I was writing these books, I don't think very much about the consequences of it, except I've now reached the point, I consider myself a semi-professional writer, I expect to have my books published. I expect that to happen.
Well, 8 books into it, that seems a reasonable expectation.
And I write toward that end now. That's one of the big differences between the way I write now and the way I wrote during the missing 20 years when I was writing stuff no way by. I think I'm a better craftsman than I was. I think I know more about what the market wants, and I think I know how to write to it. But I think I know how to write to it without sacrificing what I want to do in the book.
Well, that's wonderful if you can maintain your own integrity and creativity and still satisfy the commercial
yeah, it's a balancing act. This notion that art for art's sake, it never struck me as something that professional writers ever did, or professional painters. It seemed to me that who was it, Dr. Johnson, right? Samuel Johnson said, if you write for anything but money, you're an idiot.
Well, to tie all this together, I can certainly say that from your standpoint, it seems to be working. From mine, the fact that all of your books are available in paperback format means that when a new reader comes along and I can say, you're going to love Phil Craig, let's start at the beginning and work our way through it, because we have the romance to work through, we have Meeting the Island, the whole bit. It's just a pleasure. I am so glad that we have been able to have this conversation here in Arizona, and my fondest hope is next time you and I sit down and talk together, it's going to be at Martha's Vineyard.
Over a smoked bluefish pate.
Oh, it sounds absolutely glorious. Maybe you and Cheryl will take me bluefish fishing.
You can bet on it.
Which should be absolutely marvelous. And your plan is to continue with another Martha's Vineyard mystery next year?
This one is, the one that came out this year is about the President's daughter. This is a book I wrote between the President's first trip and his second. I've already written next year's book, and I'm finishing the one after that.
Great.
So
well, we will certainly look forward to it. And one that involves kidnapping and President's daughter sounds like a perfect moment to end this interview. Thank you, Phil, very much for joining us. And thank you for joining us for another edition of the Criminal Calendar. We hope you'll come back next month for another fascinating talk with a mystery author.